There are one or two incidents which illustrate the glory of the name. In one particular incident, a devotee by name Mrs. Vijayaprabha, who is the daughter of Mrs. Rajeshwari Amma, who is working in the ashram, the whole family have been devotees of Bhagwan right from early 70s, the middle 70s, 1975. They started to come to Bhagwan under the Punai tree. Vijayaprabha is very devoted to Bhagwan, and she has been chanting his name so much. And she wanted her son also to get involved with Bhagwan. She wanted him to be devoted to Bhagwan because she has found such a treasure in the form of Bhagwan, a treasure in the form of his name. So she was trying to tell him, impress upon him the glory of Bhagwan, but just he would not hear of it. He would not listen to her. He kept on saying, okay, you worship him, you do whatever you like, and leave me free. I shall do what I want. Don't compel me. But mother, being the mother, and knowing what is involved, she went on insisting upon his coming at least once to have darshan of Bhagavan. Finally, he reluctantly agreed. And both the mother and the son started from Coimbatore. They reached comfortably E Road bus stand. And from E Road, they had to take another bus up to Tiruvannamalai. But once they landed in E Road, the Tiruvannamalai bus was there, parked, but there was such a huge crowd. They tried, and somehow they were pushed inside with the crowd. They didn't mind, somehow they got inside, and there were so many people before them, and so many people were getting inside behind them. And slowly, from the footboard, they were being pushed to the middle of the bus. It was such a relief even to stand there, and there was hardly enough space even to stand. So there was a huge crowd in the front and in the back, and they were caught in the middle. And then the boy said, "Ma, what are you doing? You are worshipping that Swami and you want me to have his darshan? He is not able to give us a good seat, a comfortable seat. Why should we go and have his darshan? Why can't he do something about this? Look, we can't even get down now. What shall we do? You want me to stand all the time up to Tiruvannamalai, both of us?" Then the mother said, she didn't know what to say actually. And she started to pray. She said, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. She was already chanting the name. And she started to pray, Swami, he's asking me like this. What can I say? Please do something. And that exactly was the time the two people who were seated near them, they were talking to each other. What is this? This seems to be a Tiruvannamalai bus. We have got into the wrong bus. It's our fortune the bus has not started yet. So let's get out before it starts. And they just got up and pushed themselves ahead. So the seat near this mother and son became vacant, and immediately Vijayaprabha and her son occupied it, to their delight. And mother now looked at her son with pride. Just see, her eyes spoke volumes, and the son understood the glory of Bhagwan. And of course he had Darshan of Bhagavan, after which he became a very good devotee. He's also chanting his name, his whole life is run by the name now. There is just one more incident. One conductor, Nagarajan, from Madurai, his bus was running from one village to another village. It was a morning time. One of the passengers gave him 100 rupees, and the ticket was only 4 rupees. Somehow he managed to give 96 rupees as balance. And then when the village came, that passenger got down. After that, the bus made 2 trips. Now in the 3rd trip, when the bus was nearing the same village, the passenger who got down, he was there at the stop with few other people. What was more, he stopped the bus, asked Nagarajan to come out, and started to fight with him. He said, I gave you 500 rupee note. You gave me only 96 rupees back, as though I gave you only 100 rupee note. Now you give me the rest. Either you give me the rest or you have to answer us. And they were all ready to beat him. You know the way the villagers handled things. And he just didn't know it. He kept on saying, no, you gave me only 100 rupee. You just see, I don't have. I gave you only exactly what you deserve, what you needed to get as balance. Then he knew that it was not going to work and those people would take over any time by violence. And he started to chant, call out Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. And a few minutes, a policeman appeared on the scene. Actually, he was there already, but as soon as he started chanting the name, he felt compelled to come towards them. And then he came near and with an authority he spoke. Okay, let me see your bag. If this man had really given 500 rupee note, it must be there in the bag now. And then he looked inside and then he told those 5 people, you people are unnecessarily creating a scene. See, this bag doesn't have any 500 rupee note. It means what he says is right. Now you have to listen to me or you have to walk with me to the station. And those people immediately understood that they could not go on, so they disappeared from the scene. And this same Nagarajan had another interesting incident to tell us. The same bus was going, and when the stop was nearing, he whistled to the driver to stop it, because people were there inside the bus to get down at that stop. But the driver was saying he could not apply the brake. Something was wrong with the machine. Then they didn't know what to do. Nagarajan started to scream, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, because at the stop there was already one bus parked and people were getting out and some people were getting inside. So if they could not apply brakes, this would go straight away and there would be a head-on collision. And what was more, another bus was coming in the opposite direction, so it would be an accident involving 3 buses full of passengers. So he was shouting, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Within a second or two, the bus that was there, parked in the stop, it just immediately started to move and stopped itself some 20 feet away. And in the meantime, their bus, without brakes, it began to go zigzag and then dashed against a milestone there, got stopped. As soon as it was stopped, the oncoming bus came to the place and then it just passed the bus. It went straight without any problem. So within a fraction of a second, the bus that was parked at the stop moved out. The bus without brakes dashed against a milestone and got stopped. And the third bus found the way to cross the whole thing. And there was no accident at all, just at the screaming of the name Yogi Ramsuratkumar. What was more, when Nagarajan got down from their bus and approached the other bus, there was a fight between the conductor and the driver. The conductor was accusing the driver, saying that without my giving whistle, how can you start the bus? The driver was saying, no, you gave the whistle. After I heard the whistle only, I moved out. He says, no, I did not give whistle. No, you gave. So there was a fight, a huge fight. It was getting more and more noisy. And immediately Natarajan knew who whistled to the driver to move out. Yogi Ramsuratkumar did the whistling. Only he knew. He was very, very thankful to Bhagwan for saving. Otherwise, 3 buses would have been involved in a major accident. So you see how Bhagwan's Nama saves people in different circumstances and how intelligently at that. Now to this Nama and to this Nami we shall appeal and submit our prayer. Bhagwan, the Savitri day, there is a legend. Savitri, a very chaste wife of Satyavan, with her tapas, she was able to go after the god of death and bring back the life of her husband. She had such tapas with her. This is possible for every chaste wife. So in memory of that, in remembrance of this holy day, in the north, in many states, they are observing fasting and puja, especially Bihar, UP. In relation to this event, that is going after the god of death and bringing back life, there is a very interesting incident that took place with Bhagwan. A devotee by name Jayalakshmi and her husband Appan Iyengar, very devoted to Swami Jnanananda and later Yogi Ramsuratkumar Bhagwan, and they used to come to Tiruvannamalai often for his darshan. They were to settle down in Srirangam, their favorite place, but Bhagwan asked them particularly to go and live in a village near Madurai, a village called Achamtavittan. The meaning of the name of the village is, "Do not fear, I am here." This is what the god of the place says. So they conveniences available, no comfort of any sort. But they did not mind, they were struggling because Bhagavan had told them that. Now, Appan Iyengar's wife Jayalakshmi, she was a little psychic. She used to get some premonitions often. And then she would go around telling people that this is what I got. This is a picture I got in my dream. People won't believe her and they would make fun of her. But after that it would come to pass. So much so at one point Appan Iyengar would make fun of his wife. Say, please don't go to sleep. If you go to sleep you would get some kind of dream or the other. And after that it's danger for people. Anyway, one day she began to get a dream in which a very dark, frightening figure appeared and began to call her. She was terrified, and then it began to appear. This form, this terrible form, terrifying form, began to appear often in her dreams. And true to that, she developed a tumor for which she had to be operated upon. But after the operation, she became very weak. And then both the husband and wife came all the way to Tiruvannamalai, to Sanadi Street House, to be with Bhagwan, to take his blessings. Bhagwan called her inside, made her sit right in front of him, and blessed her very nicely. And then he made her walk up and down because she was very weak and she was unable to walk. But Bhagwan gave her strength to walk up and down. But when she got up to walk, she saw this huge, dark, terrifying figure standing outside again. He did not go even after the operation. She was absolutely terrified. She looked at Bhagwan, and Bhagwan was also looking in that direction. And then Bhagwan called Appan Iyengar, Jayalakshmi's husband, and said, there is somebody standing there outside the gate. Will you please ask him to go? Appan Iyengar went out. He could not see anybody. He came and reported there is no one there. And again Bhagwan said, looking at Jayalakshmi, there is somebody outside there. Appan, ask him to go away. Appan Iyengar again looked outside, only to come back and say there was nobody there. And then Bhagwan said, looking at Jayalakshmi Amma, he has gone. You did not see anybody there because he has gone. He has gone for good. He looked at Jayalakshmi Amma and said, don't worry, he's gone. So he was seen only by those two people. He was invisible to Appan Iyengar. So this is how Bhagwan might be saying to many people, who are suffering, who are in the jaws of death. And Bhagwan might be saying to this terrifying figure, of course, though it does not come to our attention in many cases, Bhagwan is capable of sending him back, the god of death. To such a Bhagwan of such glory, let us appeal with a prayer. Bhagwan, as I said this morning, today is another special day, especially for the northern states of India, where they are observing fasting and doing a certain puja. All the married women, the chaste wife, if they do this puja, observe fasting, it will increase the longevity of their husbands. Morning we saw one particular incident, how Bhagwan, just like that, asked the god of death to go away. And we shall see another small incident, how it has been repeated in a very different way. Mrs. Thilakavathy Rajashekar, an ardent devotee of Bhagwan, she and Dr. Rajashekar are living, they have their house in Madurai. Once her sister-in-law had come home for delivery. She was admitted in the hospital, mission hospital, by Thilakavathy's husband, Dr. Rajashekar. Now, after the child was born, she was discharged and she came home. The sister-in-law came home, but unfortunately, what happened was the child started diarrhea. And the milk that was given to the child would come out immediately. The child was vomiting and there was also diarrhea. It was leading to a certain death. So Thilakavathy was very worried. She was completely agitated. Dr. Rajashekar rushed his sister immediately to the hospital. They admitted the child in the intensive care unit. A treatment was going on. In the meantime, Thilakavathy was so agitated, so terrified. What could she do? She could only turn to the ever-compassionate Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Immediately she wrote a letter. In those days there was no phone. She wrote a letter to him, ending up the letter with this sentence, Bhagwan, please save his life. She was afraid. She was going to write, please save his soul. And then she thought it might have a different connotations. And therefore she changed it to, please save his life. And then offered that letter right at the feet of Bhagwan. Worried, very agitated, agonized, she came and sat in the sofa, because after 2 daughters, the boy was born to her sister-in-law, and they had come to their house, Thilakavathy's house. So it is her responsibility to see that they return safe and sound. Now this has happened unexpectedly. So she started the Nama, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and her prayer intensely, putting her heart and soul into it with her entire being. And soon she heard a knock at the door. She immediately rushed, thinking that it was her husband returning from the hospital. She was eager for the news. But when she opened, who did she see? None other than Bhagwan Yogi Ramsuratkumar himself. You can imagine in what state she would have been just looking at him. But there was no time. Yogiji came inside, looked at her, and the very next second, both of them were in the Madurai Mission Hospital. She did not even know where the child's room was. She found herself standing before a certain room. Bhagwan, of course, the all-knowing Bhagwan, seemed to know exactly where the room was. He just left her outside the room, rushed inside, and after a few minutes, he came out, and then he threw his shawl on the shoulder with a certain force, in a very inimitable style of his. And it happened that the corner of his shawl touched her cheek. It was as though he was stroking her, saying, "Don't worry, he's all right." And what was more, Bhagwan said, "Thilakavathy, he has been saved. His life has been saved." And then walked away fast and disappeared out of sight. And the next second, she found herself seated again in the hall of her house. And there was no Yogi Ramsuratkumar. Again she heard a knock at the door, and she was hoping it was Yogi Ramsuratkumar Bhagwan, but this time it was her husband. What was more, Dr. Rajashekar said, the child is very much in the same state. And it is still in the critical state, and the doctors could not say anything. But she knew, Thilakavathy knew in the heart of her hearts that Bhagwan had done something. The child has been saved. And of course, true to that, in 2 days, 3 days, the child became all right, and then her sister-in-law returned home with the child. The child is very healthy. So now, we know that whatever Savitri did, all that puja and fasting, the tapas, in order to get back her husband's life, it is possible for these Mahatmas with just a sweep of their hand. But then, we should not stop with this. We know that the idea is the death is for the body and immortality is for the soul. So we have to remember particularly today that Bhagwan, it's not mere bringing back the physical life, but taking us from death to immortality. So we have to pray to our Bhagwan, the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-pervasive Bhagwan. For this, asatoma sadgamaya, take us from the untruth to the truth, from falsehood to truth. Tamasoma jyotirgamaya, from ignorance, from darkness to light. And mrityorma amritam gamaya, meaning from the death to immortality. So let's pray for that and also offer our usual prayer at the feet of Bhagwan. Bhagwan, again, today morning after the Nama Sankirtan, we are going to submit our prayer at the feet of Bhagwan. I would like to bring a certain event that took place in the temple when Bhagwan was seated at Sambandha Vinayakar shrine. One of those eldest Shivacharyas, the pujaris, came to Bhagwan. He was a devotee of Bhagwan. He folded his hands and prayed to Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Swami, very soon the celebrations are going to start. Please bless them for successful completion of that. Bhagwan, of course, blessed him, but said, why don't you go to Arunachaleshwara, to whom you are doing puja, and pray? Then the devotee said, Swami, Arunachaleshwara doesn't talk, whereas we could talk to you. Immediately, pat came the reply from Bhagwan. The politicians also talk, but they don't honor their word. Arunachaleshwara never talks, but he keeps up his duty. He keeps up his blessing. He has no eyes but sees, no ears but hears, no hands but work. Arunachaleshwara is working all the time. So you go and pray to him. Swami also often said, faith is the greatest God on the earth. After the Mahasamadhi of Bhagwan, a particular devotee by name Kumara Guruparan from Nagarkoil, he had his daughter-in-law. His daughter-in-law was pregnant, and I think she was in an advanced state. When she was taken up for a checkup in Tuticorin, the doctors found that the position of the baby was not right, and that she would be in great trouble during delivery. When the news was passed on to Kumara Guruparan, a devotee, immediately he rushed to his puja room, sat before Bhagwan's picture, and started chanting the name Yogi Ramsuratkumar, Yogi Ramsuratkumar, and began his prayer. He did it with great faith and with his entire being. Soon he had a vision in which Bhagwan appeared. His daughter-in-law was also there sitting next to him, and Bhagwan started to peel a certain fruit and began to feed his daughter-in-law bit by bit. And after that, Bhagwan just touched her somewhere at the back, and then the vision was gone. But Kumara Guruparan knew that everything was going to be all right despite what the doctors predicted. True to that, soon after he got the news that the position, the baby righted its position by itself, to the surprise of the doctors. Everything became all right. This is faith. This is prayer. This is chanting the name. It works. So we should submit our prayer at the feet of the compassionate Bhagwan. Bhagwan,